October 19, 1971, 11:43 p.m. A warehouse in the Bronx erupts in flames. $40 million worth of pure heroin. Gone. Up in smoke. The Italian Mafia just sent Frank Lucas a message written in fire and gasoline. They wanted him gone. They wanted him broken. They wanted him to remember who really ran New York. But here's what the history books won't tell you. Here's what American Gangster left out. Frank Lucas didn't run. He didn't hide. He didn't even flinch. Within 72 hours, 5 Italian capos were sitting at a table in Harlem. Cash in hand. $2 million. An apology. And a promise they'd never touch his operations again. How does a black man from North Carolina make the Italian Mafia pay him back for burning down his empire? But what the world didn't know was that Frank Lucas had a plan nobody saw coming. Let's rewind. 1968, Harlem, New York. The heroin game was locked, controlled, untouchable. The 5 families had the entire East Coast sewn up tighter than a body bag. The French Connection pipeline ran from Marseille to Manhattan, and every gram of dope that hit American streets had Italian fingerprints on it. They owned the docks, they owned the cops, they owned the politicians, they owned the game, and the price? Ridiculous. Heroin cut down to 10% purity by the time it hit the streets. Junkies overdosing because one bag was stronger than the last. Dealers getting rich, but never rich enough to challenge the throne. Then there was Frank Lucas. Nobody important. Just Bumpy Johnson's driver, a quiet man in a sharp suit who carried bags and kept his mouth shut. But Bumpy saw something the Italians didn't. He saw a chess player in a world full of checkers amateurs. He saw a man who listened more than he spoke, a man who studied the board while everyone else chased quick money. Bumpy told him once, "The silent man lives. The loud man dies." Frank never forgot that. When Bumpy died in 1968, the Italians thought Harlem would fall apart. They thought the black gangsters would fight each other for scraps. They thought wrong, because Frank Lucas wasn't interested in scraps. He went to the source. Vietnam, the Golden Triangle, Chiang Mai, Thailand. He didn't go through the Italians. He didn't go through the Corsicans. He flew to Southeast Asia himself, met with Chinese Thai warlords, and bought heroin at $4,000 a kilo. Pure, uncut, 98% purity. He called it blue magic. Back in New York, the Italians were selling garbage at $50,000 a kilo. Frank flooded Harlem with a product so pure, so strong, so cheap that junkies were asking for it by name. Blue magic. He didn't brag. He didn't showboat. He didn't start a war. He just took over. The Italians noticed. Oh, they noticed. At first, they thought it was a fluke, a temporary disruption. Then they realized this wasn't some small-time Harlem hustler. This was a man who'd bypassed their entire operation. A man who'd gone around them, over them, and through them without asking permission. And that's when they got angry. If you're already hooked on how Frank Lucas outsmarted the most dangerous men in New York, hit that subscribe button right now. What happens next changed history forever. The Italians didn't do subtle. First, they tried negotiation. Sit-downs, offers to work together. Code for, work for us, give us a cut, or get buried. Frank declined, politely, firmly. Then they tried intimidation, threats, warnings, soldiers showing up at his clubs, messages delivered through intermediaries. Frank ignored them. Then they hit his suppliers, tried to cut off his pipeline, contacted people in Thailand, pressured customs officials, leaned on military contacts. Frank had already moved his operation. Coffins. He was smuggling heroin inside the coffins of dead American soldiers coming back from Vietnam. Hidden compartments, military planes, untouchable routes. The Italians were furious. They'd never seen anything like this. A black man outmaneuvering the 5 families? Unheard of. Unacceptable. Unbearable. So they made a decision. If they couldn't control him, they'd destroy him. October 19, 1971. The warehouse in the Bronx, $40 million in product. Years of work. Hundreds of kilos, all of it torched. The message was clear. You don't belong here. This is our city. Our game. Our rules. Most men would have folded, run, disappeared, gone back to North Carolina and never looked back. But Frank Lucas wasn't most men. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He didn't panic. He sat in his penthouse on Riverside Drive, calm as Sunday morning, and he made a phone call. Not to the police. Not to his crew, not to anyone in Harlem. He called a man in Thailand, then another in Hong Kong, then a third in Manila. Within 24 hours, a new shipment was already on the way. Bigger than before, cheaper than before, faster than before. The Italians thought they'd broken him. They'd actually just woken him up. But Frank didn't want revenge. Not yet. He wanted something better. He wanted respect. Bumpy's voice echoed in his head. The silent man lives. The loud man dies. So Frank made a choice. He could go to war, bomb their clubs, kill their soldiers, start a bloodbath that would drown Harlem in bodies. Or he could do what they'd never expect. He could make them pay. Literally. Here's the move nobody saw coming. Frank Lucas had insurance. Not the kind you buy from a company. The kind you build in the shadows. The kind that makes powerful men nervous. See, when Frank started his operation, he didn't just focus on drugs. He focused on information. Every meeting, every transaction, every dirty cop, every crooked politician, every Italian capo who skimmed money or double-crossed their own family. Frank kept records, photographs, ledgers, tapes. He had proof that certain Italian captains were stealing from their bosses. He had evidence of union kickbacks, illegal gambling operations the commission didn't know about, and side deals with rival families. But here's the genius part. He never used it, never threatened anyone, never blackmailed a soul. He just kept it quiet, safe, hidden, until the night his warehouse burned. 72 hours after the fire, Frank made another call, this time to a lawyer. A very expensive, very connected lawyer who had clients on both sides of the law. The message was simple. Tell the 5 families, I want to sit down. Neutral ground. No weapons. No soldiers. Just talk. The Italians laughed at first. Who was this uppity black gangster to demand a meeting? Then the lawyer delivered the second part of the message. Frank had files, names, dates, amounts, proof of treachery inside the commission, information that could start a civil war within the 5 families if it got out. Suddenly, the Italians weren't laughing anymore. 3 days later, the meeting happened. A restaurant in Little Italy, closed for the evening. 5 capos, no guns, just tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Frank walked in alone. Tailored suit, calm face, empty hands. He sat down. Didn't wait for permission. He didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't posture. He just spoke. You burned my warehouse. $40 million. You wanted to send a message? I got it. Now here's mine. He slid a folder across the table. Inside that folder is everything I know about your operations, the ones your bosses don't know about, the ones that would get you killed if the commission found out. Silence. I'm not here to start a war. I'm here to end one. You pay me $2 million for the product you destroyed. You stay out of Harlem, and I stay quiet about what's in that folder. One of the capos, a man named Gino, leaned forward. And if we refuse? Frank smiled. Not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. Then tomorrow morning your boss gets a copy, and the boss of every other family, and the FBI, and the New York Times, and you spend the rest of your very short life explaining why you thought you were smarter than the people you work for. Chess, not checkers. The Italians looked at each other. They'd been outplayed. Completely. Frank stood up. You got 24 hours. Cash. Small bills. Delivered to an address I'll provide. After that, the offer expires. He walked out. 22 hours later, $2 million in cash was delivered to a location in Harlem. The Italians never touched Frank Lucas again. But the story doesn't end there, because Frank Lucas didn't just beat the Mafia, he rewrote the rules. For the next 4 years, Frank ran the most efficient, most profitable heroin operation in American history. $50 million a year, pure product, untouchable supply chain. Law enforcement couldn't figure out how he was doing it. He didn't flaunt it, didn't brag, didn't draw attention. He lived in a penthouse, drove a modest car, kept his family close, stayed quiet, until he made one mistake. The chinchilla coat, 1975, Madison Square Garden, the Muhammad Ali vs. Joe Frazier fight. Frank Lucas showed up in a $100,000 chinchilla coat with a matching hat, front row seats, laughing, celebrating. A detective named Richie Roberts saw him, didn't recognize him, but thought, who is this guy? That question unraveled everything. Within months, the feds were watching. Wiretaps, surveillance, pressure on his crew. By 1977, Frank Lucas was arrested, convicted, sentenced to 70 years. He cut a deal, turned informant, testified against dirty cops and crooked dealers. He served 15 years, got out in 1991, lived quietly until his death in 2019. Frank Lucas didn't just break the rules, he created new ones, and for 7 years, he lived like a god.